Good morning. So few of you in here thus far.
Oh my gosh, I saw the most bizarre thing yesterday.
What?
So my grandmother was in a Zoom meeting for her church,
Yeah.
and they all had their cameras and their microphones on for like an hour and a half, just meekly smiling at each other and not making any noise. It was bizarre.
That's insane.
Yeah, I was like, how are you just gonna like stare at each other while one person talks?
With their mics on, that's what's
With
so
the
insane.
mics on. Yeah, with the
Already awkward,
microphones
like,
on
in
in
a
complete silence.
virtual Zoom meeting or something when everybody has, like, in our staff meetings, when everybody has their cameras on and we're just kind of looking there like, okay.
Yeah, right,
Well,
right.
at least we're muted.
Yeah, I think if I would have made noise, she would have asked me to be quiet and I would have lost my mind. But yeah, that was bizarre.
That's wild. Eli and Nate are coming in. Eli and Nate. Happy birthday, Eli, by the way.
Yes, happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're an adult.
He's all grown up.
All grown up. Corey's here. Oh yeah, Christian is somewhere in this building and I'm not sure why. I saw him earlier. He passed by my door and was like, Ms. McClellan, don't mark me absent. I was like, okay. Like, I don't know why he's here. I don't know where he is now. All right, we're gonna mark, surely Ian will be here at some point. Ian, Hayward, and Troy. Troy's been out more lately. I don't understand. Is
Yes,
he
like you said, I am an adult.
You are.
Feels weird.
All right, we'll see if we get these folks in here. I'm gonna start messaging some of you, but also don't anyone leave yet because I'm gonna go ahead and show you what our test is gonna look like. I've already published it and I'm just gonna like walk through a few things about it with you.
In my experience, Eli, becoming an adult is only weird for like 2 days and then you go back to feeling like you don't know anything.
Well, here's my theology. It's a horrible theology. Each birthday is a countdown to your death. So,
I mean, you're not wrong. And none of us know when our death is.
It's like a surprise party.
It is like a surprise party. That's a good way to think of it. See ya. Okay. Who did I just type a message to? Wasn't Brendan here for a second? Where'd he go? I did mark him present. Is what? No, she's down 1, 2, 3 rooms down. Okay, I'm missing most of the people that I need to chat with. Okay, I'm not sending anybody messages about the poetry questions, the Victorian poetry question thing, because that's due today. So I haven't looked at it to see who's turning in and who hasn't, but you know if you haven't, or if you have. So make sure that you get that done. I'm gonna share my screen with you and go over a couple things. Oh yeah, well, I already submitted that, it's fine. This is published on Canvas. final open book English 4 test. And also if anybody needs to have me email it to you, I can do that as well. Just let me know. But it's in 2 parts, and I think it's fairly easy, and I've made it even easier for you in a couple ways. So what you're going to do for the first 10 questions is answer all of those 10 questions according to one of the major books or major works that we read this year. So for instance, and these are kind of all of your options. You can answer all the questions about Beowulf. You can answer them all about Canterbury Tales, all about Everyman, all about Hamlet, all about Jane Eyre. Even though we only watched that movie, I would still be fine with that. All of them about Frankenstein, or all of them about the importance of being earnest. You're not answering some questions about Beowulf, some questions about Hamlet. You're picking one and sticking with it. But you get to pick which one you test on. So keep in mind that some of these items have more than one question, and you have to answer all parts of the question to get full credit. So here at the top, you'll write which one you're gonna do your project on, importance of being earnest or whatever. Who are 5 of the main characters in the book? And if there's only 4 main characters, you can list a 5th who's mentioned but less important. Who is the protagonist of the book? And just tell me a little bit about that person, either like their job, their personality, their relationship to other characters. Just give me a little overview of what the protagonist is like. Is that character a static character or a dynamic character? Do they stay the same throughout the story, or do they undergo a major change over the course of the book? What is one of the central conflicts in this book? Is it an internal or an external conflict? I pronounced that weird just now. I said conflict. Describe as thoroughly as you can the setting of this book. If there are multiple settings, you can pick which one you think is the most important, or the one where most of the book takes place. So Frankenstein, for instance, some of it takes place in Geneva, some of it takes place in Ingolstadt, some of it takes place in Ireland, I think. And there's like where is it that he goes? The Cave of Ice. I can't remember. But there's a bunch of different ones. So you just pick one of those. Describe the introduction or exposition of this book. What do we learn about the characters and the background during the exposition? Does it take place during the present tense, or is the narrator telling the whole story as a flashback? So for that one, obviously, like if you picked Jane Eyre, for instance, the exposition is going to be like her childhood stories. It's going to be talking about when she was a kid at Lowood, and then like the majority of the story takes place at Thornfield Hall, where Mr. Rochester lives. And but then if you chose to do Frankenstein, the exposition wouldn't be like him talking about when he was a kid. It would be Captain Walton finding him and like writing the letters and stuff. Describe the resolution of this novel. Does it wrap up neatly or leave us on a cliffhanger? Does it end happily or nah? Probably nah for most of these. What's the climax of this novel or play, and explain why you think it's a turning point? Describe one theme of the book and explain how you see an example of that theme in the book. And name one literary device the author uses in this novel or play and explain how it's used. That shouldn't be tough. Only one. You can use symbolism, imagery, metaphor, foreshadowing. There's so many to choose from. So that's part 1. 10 questions, not that hard. And then there's a bonus. What was your favorite quote from this novel or play? And it doesn't have to be word for word. You can just be like, I like how Hamlet said, I liked his whole soliloquy about whether he should kill himself or not, that kind of thing. So part 2, a little bit more complicated, but I'll show you what I've done to make it easier on you. Here's a list of each of the major literary periods that we've studied, and you're going to provide one value or characteristic of the time period and one common trend or characteristic in the literature of that time period. So what I've done to make that easier for you, because obviously Anglo-Saxon era, that's Beowulf, that was ages ago. Y'all aren't going to remember that super well at this point. So what I've done is create a whole new module with a lot of stuff in it, eras of British literature notes. And you've got Beowulf, that's the Anglo-Saxon stuff. You've got Middle English literature and Chaucer, morality plays. Those two kind of would go together. Shakespeare presentation, 17th century ballads and satire, which also go in like 17th and 18th century, 18th century restoration, romantic era, Victorian, 20th century, and then this one, which is possibly the most helpful of all because it's an overview of each of them. I don't have, I'll show you. So some of them are listed like a little bit differently, but like you can go to the Anglo-Saxon and like pick one of these things, and on your test, a value or characteristic. Pick one of those. A quality of the literature. Look at there. Oral tradition, poetry, super easy. So I would use that first and foremost. And then if you feel like that's not giving you enough info, oops, you can go back and search. Does that make sense? Any questions about it? We're going to have tomorrow and Friday to work on this. So it's not, you know, if you have other things to do for me, and let me finish. I think we gained a couple people. So if you don't have anything to do for me, let me start over. If you have not yet done the, what did I call it? 20th century poem comparison. I didn't look at that yet because it's due today. So if you haven't turned that in, you do need to turn that in. But you could work on that independently if you want. If I did message you, then you have a thing that you could work on. And particularly if that thing is the essay, that's the most important thing. So if you got a message from me, you can stay and work on that thing until you get it submitted, and then you can leave. If you did not get a message from me, then make sure that you get the 20th century poetry comparison turned in, and you can start work on the test if you want. We'll have all day Thursday and Friday to work on it, but I'll trust you to kind of manage your own time.
They shall be done.
Ooh, some very powerful voice. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn my stuff off. If y'all need me, holler at me. If you leave, then I will see you tomorrow. Christian, where are you? Oh, okay. You're just here for a minute. I gotcha. I gotcha. Um, I think I have a thing for you. Something that you need. Yes, that is correct. So the other thing, Christian, and everybody else has already heard this, but I'm going to share my screen anyway so that you're kind of caught up with everyone else. I went ahead and published the test, which will have time. That's just all that we'll do Thursday and Friday. So you should focus on your essay today, and then tomorrow and Friday you can work on this. But it's super easy. Or it should be super easy. For the first part, which is only 10 questions, you're picking one of the major works that we read this year and answering all the questions about that. So like you could pick Beowulf and answer all 10 questions about that. You could pick Hamlet, answer all the questions about that. And like the list of works that we've read is basically right here. So there's 10 questions and they're all pretty easy. I mean, like, who are 5 of the main characters in the book? What's one of the central conflicts? It's very basic stuff. And then the second part, also there's a bonus on the first part. The second part is a list of the different eras that we've been through, and you're listing one value or characteristic of the time period and one characteristic of the literature. So to make that easier for you guys, I went ahead and published this whole module, Eras of British Literature Notes, and that's all the notes that we've used this year. And this one is probably the most helpful, this last one. And I showed them the same thing. This is what it is. So for instance, when you go to do Anglo-Saxon, which is the first one, you only have to put one characteristic of the time period. So you could be like, oh, they have a strong belief in fate. And then you also have to have a characteristic of the literature. Well, here's several: oral tradition or poetry. You could put that. And then if you feel like from that one that you don't have enough information, you still have all these that you could go back and look at. So I'll kind of go back over it tomorrow, especially because we're missing a couple people. But it should be pretty basic. It shouldn't be too difficult or time consuming. But we'll focus on that the next couple of days. So you just work on your essay. Troy, finally joining us after all this time. Let me look and see what I need from you. Um, Troy, the only thing that I might not have mentioned, if you haven't yet turned in the 20th century not 20, what am I saying? 20th century poem comparison. I haven't looked at that yet because it's due today, so you know if you've done it or not. I've also gone ahead and gone through what the test is going to be like with everybody. I've gone over it a couple times actually, so I'm not going to go over it a third time. You've got a couple of things that you can still turn in, so you focus on those things today. We will go over the test again tomorrow because we'll have all class Thursday and Friday to work on it. Okie doke. Okie dokie, folks. Time to go. Y'all try to get that stuff turned in ASAP. And I will see y'all tomorrow.